You know, it has been a long time since I've ever talked about SpongeBob on this channel. I don't think I've really made a review of it since the beginning of my channel in 2014. Well, why don't we change that today? Hello everyone, Baconator here, and today is a review of the Season 10 episode of SpongeBob Mimic Madness. Okay, so I haven't really been watching SpongeBob recently, other than occasionally watching old episodes that rerun on Nick. I haven't really been keeping up with most of what's new, like past season or two. And now it's at its 10th season, and I haven't really seen any episode outside of this one. And I found out about it from a Twitter post that someone made saying that this was a really good episode, and another person saying it was face freeze done right. Well, that got me curious, and I decided to watch this episode and see if it was really that good. So is it? Well, it is good, but I wouldn't call it great. It's got a couple personal things for me holding it back, and I'll explain them in this video. Okay, so the plot of this episode is that SpongeBob starts doing impressions of a lot of people, and he's very good at it, and a lot of people around him are enjoying it, so he keeps doing it, and then it gets to a point where he has done so many impressions of people over and over again that they are all very annoyed with him, and it's no longer funny or enjoyable for any of them. So Sandy, Squidward, Plankton, Mr. Krabs, and Patrick all try to have an intervention with SpongeBob to get him to stop doing impressions of everyone, but he finds that he is unable to himself, and then he ends up running away, and we actually get a song during this episode, which I'll go over later, which is about him not knowing who he is, pretty much having an identity crisis. So in order to be himself, everybody does an impression of him, which gets him to be himself again, and in the end, they all become SpongeBob. What a twist! Anyways, the plot of this episode is simple. It's a simple episode, but that is not instantly a bad thing. Most of the plots in SpongeBob are simple, but this one manages to be very enjoyable nonetheless. And I can't really find anything wrong with it anyways. It's not boring or uninteresting. It's simple but enjoyable. Just like how SpongeBob really should be. That's how a lot of his stories or the plots in these episodes should be made. They need to be simple but enjoyable. Now let's go over the humor of the episode, the big factor on whether or not you're going to like this episode. Now overall, the humor is pretty good. I do like a lot of the jokes that are thrown in here, although not every joke works, and that is one of the smaller factors in why I think this episode is good, not great. Not every joke works, but for the most part, a lot of them do. And a couple of the standout jokes for me are like, when the dad and his 3 kids are sitting at the table and SpongeBob brings their food and the dad's pretty much just, shut up and eat your food! Like, I like that guy. That guy was really funny. And also, another standout joke for me was when SpongeBob did an impression of the narrator, and he's pretty much like, this many impressions later. And then the narrator comes in and says, and asks him to stop doing an impression of him. And it's even funnier when you know it's Tom Kenny as the voice of both SpongeBob and the narrator, so it's pretty much just Tom Kenny doing an impression of himself and arguing with himself, and that is pretty funny. And overall, most of the jokes are pretty good. Although I did have a few missteps here and there, the humor was pretty good. Now let's get to the part of the show where I'm starting to have mixed feelings on, and that would be in the animation. Now it's not that the animation is bad, far from it, it's good. It is some of the cleanest looking animation that I've seen from SpongeBob in a while. And also, the character facial expressions are a lot more detailed than they have been. In a good way, not a bad way, like in Face Freeze. And another thing with the Face Freeze comparison, before I get any further, is that with the impressions that SpongeBob does, well, for one, his faces don't look hideous and jarring. And two, they don't overstay their welcome. They get the right amount of time of focus so we can see that yes, they enjoy it and how much they end up getting annoyed by it, and you can understand what's going on through the episode and not be annoyed yourself. See, that is a problem with a lot of episodes of certain shows when they're annoying characters on the screen. If you're annoyed yourself, then the annoyance doesn't work. But luckily, that doesn't happen. And only the characters in the show are annoyed, and we are not, and that works. Okay, back to the animation. As I was saying, the character facial expressions are a lot more detailed, and also, it feels like the timing or the pacing of the show in general is a little bit faster. I don't know if it's because I haven't really watched the show in a while or not, but it feels like the older episodes had a slower cartoony pace to it than these newer episodes do. It feels like this has a bit of a faster pace to it. I guess it just feels a little jarring for me since I haven't really seen the show that much and I'm used to like a little bit of a slower pace instead of this fast-paced cartoony animation. But hey, I might get used to it if I see it more. But I don't know. Right now I'm not a biggest fan of it. But the animation itself is still good. It's not bad by any means, and I really do think it will work. And it definitely works with a lot of the jokes that are thrown in this episode, and they do help the jokes be funny. So overall, good animation, but not great animation. Overall, this episode was a definite return to form with SpongeBob. While it wasn't a great episode, since I did have a few minor problems here and there with the animation and humor, it was still a pretty enjoyable episode, and I highly recommend you watch it. Even if you're a fan of just the old stuff or new stuff, or you like both, this is probably going to be an enjoyable episode for you. So, what did you guys think of this episode? Did you love it and think it was really funny and enjoyable? Or did you hate it and thought it was just boring and unfunny? Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys some other time.